everyone. Welcome back. I hope you guys had a great evening. And I know there was some really fun stuff last night after the power went out, which thank God it went out after we were done here. But the feast was amazing. So I hope people really enjoyed that. Kurt, could you stand up back there? Could we do a shout out to you? And I'm sure you might have heard this, but he's looking for more stories, so you could become animated. And so, you know, please work with Kurt and get his signature, because he will be famous, and he is famous. So congratulations on an amazing event last night. Just some things to, again, think about this morning. Thank you all. Those numbers are going up quickly on our fundraising. And again, you know, really appreciative for everybody contributing and helping. This is important, and I can't thank you enough. It's really, you know, something that's needed so that we can continue to support you and the programs. 2 surveys, remember, please, if you're in the app, they are in the app, both of the conference survey and the community survey, which is going to help with our strategic planning. If not, if you haven't downloaded the app, it's a QR code. If you're uncomfortable understanding how to use QR codes, which I have problems with every day, just anybody at our NPKUA booth can help. And again, it'll take, you know, 2 minutes, and we really, you know, need your input. So please. I think I might have another speaker who wants to get on stage. Another couple of things just for today. Tons of breakouts this morning, which is amazing. Then we're going to have the scientific posters later, which is also great, and networking. And then we'll end up with a cocktail hour and our PKU Hero Award banquet this evening. So if I don't see you, you know, today back on stage, I'll see you later this evening. And again, thank you. 2 things to just remind you. After this panel discussion, which is going to be incredible, that Marcia is going to moderate, I do want to encourage everyone who is a teen or a young adult to go to the Hemlock Room. BioMarin is doing a workshop with a clinical coordinator, and it's going to be super interactive. And I just want to remind everybody about that. So please join them right after this at 10 a.m. in Hemlock. And with that, Marcia, I want to turn it over to you and the panel.
My panel, who I just met 30 seconds ago. Well, good morning and welcome to the panel discussion for Saturday. Yesterday's panel discussion was all about the big picture: strategy, organization, political realities. Today, we're going to do just the opposite. We're going to go inward to the individual experience. We're going to be looking at some of the psychological, social, emotional, behavioral factors that are involved in that personal PKU journey of self-management and self-advocacy. How's that? So, I'm not the expert in this. I raised a rather lovely PKU daughter, and I'm a real hands-on grandma of my 2 granddaughters, both of whom have PKU. But that doesn't make me the expert. The experts are the folk who live this every moment of every day of every year, without a day off, without a vacation, of needing to be mindful of the PKU realities. So here's our panel of experts for the day. And I'm going to ask them to briefly introduce themselves. And then I'm going to throw some questions at them. And then I think we'll also have some time for Q&A. Okay, so our panelists are Brittany Holmes, Abigail Pallas, Will Singletary, and Ellis Bomar. Did I get that right? Okay, good. So Brittany, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Can you all hear me okay? Or am I not?
Nope, you're not live yet.
about now? How about now? We're good? Okay. So my name is Brittany Holmes. I am 35, so I'm an adult with PKU. I was on diet for the first 25 years of my life, but I am now on Palynziq, so I've been on that for about 10 years now. So obviously I've had a little bit of different experiences growing up. I also am a nurse practitioner in genetics now at Boston Children's Hospital. So also have the healthcare provider perspective. So wearing a couple hats.
My name's Abigail Pallas. I am 33 years old. I was diagnosed with classical PKU at birth. I am in the Seattle, Washington area. I graduated from San Francisco State University in 2010, and I currently work in sales as a national account manager for a company in Seattle. And my experience with PKU is that I have maintained being on diet basically my entire life, and I also supplement that with the PKU formula, and that's just something that I've done since childhood.
My name is Will Singletary from Austin, Texas. I'm 16 years old and I have classical PKU. I go to Westlake High School and I've been a competitive swimmer for as long as I can remember. PKU has defined my daily life, my training, my school life, my relationships, and it's been an interesting time to manage.
Hi, my name is Ellis Bomar and I have classical PKU, and I go to Brentwood High School. I play soccer, and PKU is really hard. I have very classic PKU, so it's been a journey.
Okay, so I'm going to throw out the first question, which is probably pretty obvious. What are your struggles with managing PKU, and how do you deal with them? And let me also throw in, you can talk about your triumphs too. Brittany, would you like to start?
Okay. So obviously in full transparency, my struggles are different now on Palynziq prior to that. So, I mean, currently my struggles, to be honest, don't have a lot to do with PKU. Usually it's things outside of PKU. But, you know, I did have the experience the first 25 years of my life of the diet. And I think what really helped was how my parents had kind of raised me to think about PKU. You know, it was never something that they were like, well, you can't do that because of PKU. You're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to do that. It was always, you know, obviously I have PKU. There's going to be challenges and struggles. I don't want to diminish that. But at the same time, you know, it's something that I can still accomplish whatever I want to. And I think that mindset really helped throughout my life, because I never, you know, was like, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that because of PKU. So I think that was what really helped me growing up with any struggle. You know, obviously they happened, but just focusing on all the things that I could do was, you know, a big help.
Struggles for me, I would definitely say anxiety is a big issue that I've struggled with probably my entire life. And it pretty much started in childhood. And now that I'm older, I kind of reframe how I look at things, because when I do have bouts of anxiety, I'm able to recognize that that's probably because I am not eating low-fat enough. And by recognizing these symptoms in my body, I'm better able to manage and control my diet. And I think that's very important, that just because you have these struggles, it doesn't necessarily define you, and you need to kind of reshape your thinking and recognize how that can affect your body and use that to keep your health in check.
My struggles with PKU have been a little different from Miss Abigail or you. I'm not sure why. Thanks, Ellis. And Ellis's struggles. But since I respond to Kuvan, my tolerance is 20 grams of phe. So my personal experience is a lot different than some of you. I've had struggles with peer pressure and eating at school, what I can have on their menu, going out with friends, what I can eat there, and really just having to recognize what the consequences of my actions would be if I went off diet. Because PKU is very strict. There's no off days, there's no vacations, always on diet. You just have to keep with it. There's no choice. But you don't have to look at it as a negative. Think of all the things you can eat, the experiences you can have, like this great conference, the friends you make, the people you meet, the relationships you have with your geneticist. They're all great positives of PKU.
I struggle with finding something to fill me up each day that doesn't waste all my fee. And I don't like cooking, so that doesn't help. But I never look at it as something that will restrict me. I look at it as something that's an opportunity. Like I would never be up here if I didn't have PKU. And my mom's about to cry. And I do sports. It doesn't affect sports at all. So, yeah.
Will, this is the next question, and you already touched on it. How do you manage the social aspects of PKU, explaining PKU to others, handling others' discomfort with offering you food, fielding any negative comments? And you can answer this in now time, or you could answer it with your 11-year-old self, either on how you handled it or how you wish you had handled it.
Okay, well, I'll start. PKU, explaining it to others has always been not difficult, but almost annoying at times, because PKU is something that I deal with every day. Most people that I meet, new people, they just don't understand. They can't understand it. So what I've resorted to saying is my liver broke and I can't eat protein. So what I immediately try to compare it to is my tolerance is about a 4-ounce steak. I cannot have any more than that. So that immediately rules out meat, eggs, cheese, dairy, yogurt, things like that. And then you go on a journey of people asking you what you can and can't eat and having to answer for days at a time. But whenever they look at it in a negative light, I try to immediately turn it around. PKU, I don't let it be a drag on my life. If you live with it this long, you just have to turn it into a positive. Otherwise, it just drags your psyche down. There's probably more to say, but I can't think right now. Let's try.
What about our other team?
I usually don't really get any negative comments, which is good, but awesome. I deal with it every day, so I don't think of it. I try and think of the positive side of it, and yeah. And I usually just cut to the chase and say, I can't have protein. I can only have 5 grams a day. And like, and they're like, but can you have meat? And I'm like, no. Yeah.
I'm usually pretty specific with my friends and my close friends. I don't necessarily tell everyone that I'm dining with that I have PKU. Sometimes it's just easier to say I'm vegetarian and just leave it at that. But if it's a close friend, I mean, they honestly want to know. They're very interested. So I tell them that my body can't metabolize phenylalanine into tyrosine, and for that reason, I have to have a low protein diet, and I just supplement it with protein drinks that are prescribed to me. And I feel like that's an easy way to kind of explain why it's important. And I think that in terms of social aspects, it was more challenging as a kid and maybe something that I was a little more embarrassed of sharing because I was different than everyone else. But as an adult, I can assure you, no one cares. Like they're interested in you because it's a
Yeah.
quirky characteristic of you. And all my friends are really supportive. Like they'll text me, hey, I found a great restaurant with some low protein options. We should go there. And it's just a very supportive environment.
Yeah, I think some of the things that were helpful, like growing up, was just to have some, things prepared of what to say when the questions came up. And, kind of similar to you, I had kind of different answers depending on if it was someone that, was a friend that I was going to really be around for a while, or if it was just someone, that I might not see again. But also, I looked at it as an opportunity to like educate someone about PKU. And yes, sometimes it did get annoying to have to answer the same question over and over again. But I think another really important thing that you also kind of touched on was just making sure to surround yourself with people that are supportive. That was huge for me too. And having friends that were so supportive, sometimes to the point where like in college, we'd go to a party and they'd be like more worried about me finding something to eat than I was. So they were all great. And I think that was really important. So I think anyone that is not supportive or that would make rude comments, I promise you, they are not worth your time.
So when you get questions like, I mean, in our family, we always just said, I'm allergic to protein, because like, it's just not worth explaining. And so then they said things like, but you can have cheese, right? And it's like, how do you not roll your eyes? Or are you just more polite than I am? Okay.
I can't say I've never rolled my eyes, that's for sure.
Okay, so, being a caretaker, sometimes it just got really hard and really old. It's like I was making 3 different dinners every night, one for my non-PKU daughter, one for my PKU daughter, and then one for the grown-ups, like every night. And it's like pasta every night. And it would get dark sometimes. My question, and of course, the caretaker role is way easier than your role. So the next question, and Ellis, we'll start with you. How do you handle the dark moments? I know you said you really try to stick to the positive, but we all have those times. How do you handle the dark moments when it just seems overwhelming or unrelenting or unfair?
I usually try and take my mind off of it by being like busy during the day. And my mom usually tells me if I'm not busy to go work out and stuff. She's like, go work out. But I also don't like doing that either. And so I just try and get my mind off it. Being busy helps a lot. And yeah.
My experience with this is a bit different because of my high tolerance to the Kuvan. I can't remember a time having a really bad day. The best I can say is when my diet gets a little iffy, the best thing I can explain it as is my brain feels cloudy. I feel slower. I feel not responsive. And feeling that lets me know that I'm somehow deviating off diet and I really have to get back on. And when that happens, I remember why I stick to the diet. I don't want the consequences of these bad choices to catch up to me.
My overwhelm does not typically come from the diet. I love cooking. Eating low protein is kind of second nature to me now. That's not the issue. The overwhelm for me comes from insurance and the battle year after year that I have to deal with. And even if my company stays the same, my insurance policy stays the same, I can end up with a pharmacy that I try to place an order and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we're not making enough money off of your formula, so we're not going to sell it to you anymore and you have to find a new pharmacy. And the way I deal with this overwhelm, because it's an ongoing battle and it's great when you're under your parents' insurance policy and they can handle a lot of that, but I encourage all of you parents to kind of open your children's eyes to the struggles that you do have to deal with, because it's important to make sure that when they are off on their own, they're knowledgeable about these things. They do need to be prepared. And we have so many great manufacturers here that have support teams. And these teams will actually help find pharmacies, help get you insurance coverage. They want you to have their formula and you want to take it and they want to build the insurance so everyone can benefit from it. They are looking out for you. So I encourage you to grab some business cards out there and try to make some connections, because those people may end up really helping you get the coverage that you need or your child needs.
I'd just like to step in and thank all the PKU parents here for struggling with insurance all these years. Every
do it when you're an
PKU kid
adult.
here is a losing bet to insurance. So stepping in and dealing with them for 6 hours a week on average is remarkable. And I'd just like to thank each and every one of you here for that.
So, as I mentioned, obviously, I tried to have a really positive outlook about PKU. I think it just helped that PKU was just a part of me, it didn't define everything. So if there were challenges, it didn't, completely derail everything, because there's just so much more to me than just PKU. However, I can't say I never had a dark time. One in particular, like, immediately comes to mind when I was in grad school and I really wanted to participate in this trip to the Dominican Republic for nursing school for, helping an underserved population. And up till that point, I still had very positive outlook on PKU. But when I applied, they actually told me that PKU was literally the reason I couldn't go, because of what you had to eat. That you didn't have a lot of options, so you had to live off beans and rice, which I couldn't do. So that, like, even to this day, still sometimes gets me a little emotional thinking about it, because it was upsetting. So I, let myself have the time to be upset about it, but then, focus on all the things that I still could do, which was still a lot. So, obviously that was frustrating, but there were still so many other things I could do, still went on, did well in school and graduated. So, it was one moment, but there were still so many other better moments.
Any other thoughts? No? Go on to the next one. Okay. So Abigail, we'll throw this one to you. How do you make the most out of the patient-clinic relationship?
I have to give a huge shout out to the social workers that are involved in the clinic. They are huge advocates in helping you find the right coverage and offering insight into maybe what insurance companies might work best for your situation. But in terms of personally working with the clinics, I think just establishing that relationship with them is key. They have your best interest in mind, and they have a vested interest in you and all their patients. They want to see you succeed, and they want to be supportive, and they're completely non-judgmental. And I also encourage anyone taking their blood spots to kind of be, look at it from a neutral perspective. You don't have to go in the 3 days in a row eating perfectly to try and get the best fee level possible. You should be honest and look at it from a neutral, data-driven perspective. You want to see if you maybe had a higher fee meal, submit that, see what exercises you were doing the previous days before. Maybe if you went on a very long walk and that might have helped lower the fee despite having a higher fee meal. Keep detailed records and then discuss that when you do see your dietitian and your clinician and see what input they might have based on other experiences with other patients. But but give yourself some grace. Try not to be so hard on yourself. If you do slip up every once in a while, we all make mistakes and it happens. And sometimes you're at a restaurant and you only have one option on what to eat. And that's just how life is, unfortunately. Just try to maintain a positive outlook on that and work in tandem with your team to keep everything going in the right direction for you.
So I'm going to answer this a little bit from both sides as a nurse practitioner, seeing PKU patients and as a PKU patient. So I think one of the biggest things that I learned when I, kind of got to the other side from the patient side was just the need to be really open and honest with your clinic. And I say that because I know from the patient side experience that there were many times that I did not want to tell the whole truth. There were times where I'm like, do I really want to tell them that I ate something that I shouldn't? Or, do I really want to tell them? Or, do I want to talk to them about how I missed doing that blood spot? Or, there were many moments where I felt that I didn't be as open as I could be when I was younger because of just being afraid of feeling bad, feeling like I wasn't doing what I should, even though I know I should. So that kind of, I think, probably from the provider side held back a lot of, more support that I could have got. So from the provider side, we obviously can't give you the best recommendations if we don't know exactly what's going on. So our job is not to judge you for what you're currently doing. It's to try to figure out what's currently working, what's currently not. So talk to your provider about that. Tell them, what's not working, what you're struggling with. And then together you can come up with the best recommendations for where you're currently at, not where you, wish you could be or where, you're telling them you are, because I totally get that from both sides. So I think that's, the biggest thing that I learned is really just being completely open and honest with your clinic team and using them as a team so that you can, find what works for you best.
So my relationship with my geneticist and my nutritionist team and all of them is a very strong one. I think that you should keep a very strong connection to your team because these are the people that help keep you alive. I've made lots of new friends, had great connections with. When I moved from small town Louisiana to Texas, I didn't change genetics teams. I still go back to Tulane in New Orleans to get my bi-yearly checkups done. I have such a great relationship with the Tulane community and my geneticist, Dr. Hans Anderson, and Miss Amy Cunningham, and all these people that have been around me my whole life. It's just, these connections can help you so much when you struggle, when you feel down, when you're looking at new treatment options. These people have your back. So knowing how to keep an open connection and open conversation, communication is key. To these people, your life becomes that much easier.
I have a good relationship with my dietitian, nurse practitioner, but for people that don't, it's really good to have one because you can, for your yearly checkups, they can help you better yourself and find better ways to cook and give you things to that are low in protein. And yeah.
So I'm hearing a couple things here. I'm hearing, and they're diametrically opposed themes. One is, have that great relationship. These people are on your side and they want the best for you. And the other is, they're kind of like Big Brother, and they're gonna shame you a little bit. And so I guess if that were ever to happen, go to a different clinic, for heaven's sakes, but it may be more of an internal thing than a reality thing, so if you're having that feeling, if you're cheating or something like that, to see what this is what I'm hearing, to see what you can do to change that relationship in your head so that the team can do its best for you.
I agree. I think you really need that big brother relationship. If it gets out of hand, it's like an abusive relationship between your geneticist and you'd probably find a different clinic. But just having them doting on you, making sure you're not going off diet, that's what they're there for. They're a second family because PKU is an integral part of every one of our lives. Having a team that can help you get through it, even if that means cracking down on you when you're not on diet, that's what you need.
Yeah, I think, it's even outside of PKU, this same thing about feeling like bad or being judged. Like if, for example, you go to a weight loss clinic, some people might feel hesitant to share that they ate a big bag of chips before coming in. I think it's just that whole, everyone kind of has that where they're a little worried about being judged, but obviously just remember that this is your healthcare for you to be the best that you can be. So, it helps you the most to have that relationship and be as honest as you can. And, like Other says, if you feel like you can't, maybe try to find another clinic or reach out to other people with PKU and see if you can get support elsewhere.
And I don't think many people go into the medical field with the intent of wanting others to not live a successful life. They have your best interest at heart. They go into that field because they genuinely care about helping people. And it's important to remember that. And yes, I totally agree that it is just a framing in your brain, just restructuring that because they are your number one supporter and they want you to succeed.
This may be where a little bit of the self-advocacy comes back, to work in your best interests. Yeah. And so here's one last question before we throw it out to any questions. What would you say to a parent of a newborn just diagnosed with PKU? Many of us in the room have been there. We know that moment. What might you say to someone in the audience or someone out there in the world who is the parent of this precious little baby, and then they find out that there's something dramatically wrong?
I would say congratulations on your newborn. But seriously, I would say that, but I also would add, obviously, I'm sure PKU isn't something that was expected. It might feel overwhelming in the beginning. This is something, completely unexpected, unknown to you, and unless you, have had another child with it before, but otherwise, I know it seems overwhelming in the beginning, but this is something that is completely treatable and manageable. And although there might be some things you have to do differently, you can have a completely happy, healthy, normal child. And I think that's the, really main message for those parents that are terrified in the beginning.
I agree with everything that she said. And I would also add that it's going to be challenging those first few years and really during childhood. And it's important to not let your foot off the gas pedal and stay focused and ensure that while their brain is developing, you are taking the necessary precautions to make sure that they are having a healthy diet and you're doing your due diligence, to ensure that they are staying in a low-fat diet. Because when they are children, a lot of that responsibility, unfortunately, does fall upon the parent. But then I'd also say, as the child starts getting older, once they start reaching, elementary school age, maybe allow them a little more freedom to make their own decisions. I think you'd be surprised with the choices that they will make, and it would make you very proud to kind of see how they've learned from you and how they've grown, and they understand that this is something that I need to do for my health. So, but yeah, I would definitely reiterate that don't stress so much. Your child will be fine. You just got to take care in the first few years and really pay attention and stay focused.
What I would say to a parent of a newborn with PKU is it's going to be all right. PKU is completely treatable, and every PKU baby can grow up to be a great individual like the four of us up here. Am I wrong?
Clap to that.
PKU is not a detriment at all. PKU is, if nothing else, an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to expand upon yourself as a parent, and to help the child really grow and thrive. PKU makes us unique. All of us are different, but that doesn't mean we're better or worse. We're all unique. And that is something powerful.
I would think that a parent of a newborn with PKU would need hope for the future, and just that it's all going to be okay, and that it's going to be tough at first, but it gets easier as they grow up and listen, and their teenage years are kind of hard, but known from experience. But as they get older, it'll get easier.
Maybe one of the things I might add is certainly remembering how this is going to take up our whole lives. This is going to just be this huge thing living in the middle of our lives. Might also add that when my daughter was born, which of course is kind of back in the dark ages, you know, the question is she going to be all right? And the physician said, I don't know. Is my daughter going to be able to have children? No. Of course, both of those things turned out to be totally wrong. And so when my grandchildren were born, the developmental pediatrician came in, and you know, she had to give the spiel because that's what she had to do, even though, and she goes, kid's going to be fine. and you know, and our answer was, we know. Yeah. So the community has come a long way, and and it didn't turn out well. Actually, that's not true. When the baby was first born, it did seem to take up a huge amount of space because you know nothing. Like, what is this? But it got down to the point, and I don't know what your experience is, but it was about 5% of parenting. You know, it was just this one little piece, and all these other things like do your homework, you know, the normal stuff of parenting, you know, that's what was important. And so I don't know what your experience is, and but it probably doesn't take up your whole life, right? It's just this one chunk, and everybody's got something, right? Well, and the parents of the newborn, they just found out about the problem right away, but everybody's got something. It just doesn't usually show up in the first 48 hours. So what, time to open up to Q&A? Do you have questions of these outstanding people here? Who's running around with who's got the mic? Okay.
I'm coming.
Wait, I can't see anything because of the light.
I know. It's really bright.
Here you go.
So just start. Whoever has a question.
Oh, there's one.
It's on. Okay. My name is Rob Bott. I'm from the Utah area. So when our family, I heard someone else do something like this, so it's not going to sound much like a question. But when our family first had our very first child become a member of this community, all that you've said has come to pass at this point. But my jaw dropped and I was amazed at the women, the mothers, the grandmothers, the women, and all the care and all the support. Obviously, fathers are deeply involved in this, and I don't want to downplay that at all. But I just saw such huge effort from so many women. And so I just want to kind of give special kudos to Will. I've connected with a number of people who have PKU over social media. All of them are amazing, and they are all women. And I noticed in the survey information that was presented yesterday, 60% of survey taken are women or female, 40% male. There's a gap there. And I think our community needs and is blessed to have one of 4 up there being a male, because our young children, our young boys and our young men need mentors, and there is no one else who can do that like one of their peers or someone of their own gender that's a few years older, that can help them have hope and see success and enjoy success. So it's not a question, but thank you so much, Will. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm truly blessed to be the only male ambassador up here today.
Other questions?
It's not a question, it's just a
Okay, comments.
I want to tag a little bit off of what you said about having children, a PKU child back in the dark ages. I have 2, and back then there was no support. And the difference is today that there is so much great support, and it was scary back then. And there was, like you said, what's going to happen, whatever. But, the hope part is extremely important, a positive attitude. But we've come such a long way. It just blows me away to look at this room and see all the support out there. I don't know how it was for you, because there wasn't much at all back then.
No, there was St. Virginia's newsletter that came out once a month. There was Italian pasta, and there was
Right.
formula.
Right.
That was
That's
it.
it. And the formula,
That, what?
the
Oh, and wheat
formula
starch, and
was-
wheat starch.
oh my gosh.
I'd be up at 1 o'clock in the morning making grain crackers.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
So-
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Thank the community.
Hi, my name is Connie Haynes Welsh, and I'm from Houston, Texas. And I wanted to just first say thank you guys so much for standing up or sitting down and telling your stories. It's always my favorite part of the conference. We have an 11-year-old son who was born with PKU. And so he's getting to the point where, as much as I try to empower him, which he does fantastic with his diet, but from a peer pressure perspective and just feeling different and looking at his friends who don't carry this around on a daily basis, it's difficult. And so we try to, bring him to conferences like this or Camp Fever. What are other things you could, what other suggestions you have for connecting, or what did you all do to maybe connect with other peers, or, what advice would you have for parents to just ensure that we're doing the best we can to help empower?
I'll chime in.
Go ahead.
I mean, first, it already sounds like you're doing an amazing job. You're doing everything that you should, empowering him, taking him to things like this. This was always huge for me growing up. I think this was where, you're able to, even though I, as I said, I tried to be positive about it, it was still so nice to be able to connect with other people that understood, and you had a few days off where you didn't have to explain it. So I think, continuing to do things like that is great. I think what can be tricky around that age is not only, empowering them from the standpoint of just how they view PKU, but also starting to take over their management more. And I think that's a tough, I know my mom had a hard time with that. Like sometimes I would get so embarrassed when she would like tell someone at school, like, oh, she needs this. I'm like, Mom, let me do it. But then, you know, there were times where I knew that if I didn't make my formula, she would do it for me. So, so that's what I mean by, you know, just letting them also start taking over their management as much as they can. Obviously, you know your child the best. So how much or how little they can do is really dependent on you. I never say, you know, by a certain age, they need to be doing this, but I think just, you know, trying to slowly letting them take over so that they really feel like, all right, you know, this is something on me, you know, this is something I need to do. I think that also is part of, you know, them feeling empowered. Not only do I feel, all right, I understand PKU, I know why I need to do this, but I can also do it myself. And I can see that I can manage it fine.
And I think there's also some great resources on social media. I'm not sure if at that age you want your child involved on social media, so maybe it should be supervised. That's totally up to your discretion. But there's some great communities on Facebook. There's some great communities on Instagram. And I encourage you to have them make connections that way. You might find some people locally in your community that they can connect with and just have that extra layer of support. And then, yeah, peer pressure can be hard. I definitely went through my share of that. I think around that age, it wasn't so bad. Definitely in high school, it was more of a challenge for me personally. But what Brittany had mentioned earlier, I think it's important to make sure that you surround yourself with, or your child surrounds themselves with friends that are supportive, because those are the people that are going to stick by you and not, you know, judge you for what you can eat, because that seems so silly, especially in this day and age when everyone's on a whole different diet. So I just encourage them to make the right decisions in finding those friendships, and then seeking other PKU people to connect with.
I can't validate anything about social media because I don't use it, but I'm sure that's a fantastic resource. Social media just ain't fun. But I'm sure that's a great resource to help connect with people in your area that may have PKU, to help him connect. What I think Ms. Brittany said that would be really great is starting to let him become self-sufficient. Self-sufficiency in PKU will help him just really understand why he has to stick to the diet. Because for the longest time, the kid may not know why he has to. He just knows it must be done because mom says so. So letting him become self-sufficient and taking a hands-off approach to managing his diet can really help his self-esteem and how he deals with PKU. Because at a point, he's going to know so much more about PKU than you ever could, because he lives with it every day. So letting him take the reins, he knows what he can eat. He's done this a while. He can take the reins. Don't be afraid to let it happen.
So I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and we have the Tennessee PKU Foundation, and that we do a couple events a year, and that really helps like help me see people with and talk to people that have PKU and relate to people. And yeah, that helps a lot with me.
You know, I'm sitting here listening to this, and I don't think that the two strategies are mutually exclusive. You know, the strategy of give the kid the reins, let them be independent, let them sort of own their PKU as early as possible, and wanting to connect with people who are like them. I don't think that these strategies are mutually exclusive at all, particularly when you look at the developmental. Did I mention I'm a clinical psychologist? That you know, when you're a teen, when you go past, you know, when you move out from your family of origin, and your friends become your peer group that you relate to. You want to be just like them. You know, this is when girls call up their friends and say, "What are you wearing today?" Because they want to be just the same. So, you know, because this community is getting as strong as it is, we can probably come up with some great ideas for how to have, particularly younger teens, be able to connect so that they are not the only one, as well as creating the independence so that, by the time they're 9 or 10, they're managing their own diet. You can do them both. They're not mutually exclusive. So
I just want to say thank you. I think we need to give a standing ovation to these four individuals. I may get a little weepy, but I know because I have a 26-year-old and a 28-year-old, and now I'm going to cry, Jerry. You are the future. We need your help. And I think when I sit here as an executive director, we've got to embrace them, we've got to empower them, and we've got to get them more involved in the solutions because, like you said, Will, you live with it every day, right? And nobody understands it better than these individuals. And I think having the ability to do peer-to-peer, okay, and mentoring and getting them so much more involved is missing a little. And I think it's so unbelievably important and so unbelievably powerful because they're going to listen to each other. And I think we need to do more of that. So you are amazing. Sorry, I've got kids too. And I'm just always blown away when they grow up and they're so smart and they're so caring and they just get it. And you're amazing. And thank you. That was great. I'll stop crying. So just a reminder.